On a crisp autumn morning, the small town of Bellbrook was waking up to the sounds of chirping birds and the distant whir of cars on the road. Among the early risers, Mrs. Perkins, a dedicated listener of Radio 7, tuned in to hear the latest news. As the familiar voice of Jim Morgan echoed through her kitchen, she felt a sense of comfort. "Good morning, Bellbrook," Jim said cheerfully. "Here is your 7-day weather forecast. This week will bring sunny days, with temperatures staying between 65 and 75 degrees. Perfect weather for our high school football team, the Bellbrook Eagles, as they prepare for the big game this Friday." Mrs. Perkins smiled, thinking about the excitement surrounding high school football. Every Friday, the whole town would gather at the stadium, wearing their blue and gold team colors. But then, Jim's voice grew serious. "Unfortunately, we have some troubling news. Search teams are still looking for 2 missing hikers in the Bellbrook Forest. They were last seen 3 days ago. If anyone has information, please contact the local authorities." As she finished her breakfast, Mrs. Perkins felt a chill run down her spine. The Bellbrook Forest was a vast area, and although the hikers were experienced, the forest could be dangerous for anyone who got lost. Across town, the high school was buzzing with energy. The football team practiced in the field, their cheers and shouts mixing with the sounds of nature. Coach Thompson, a tall man with a loud whistle, observed his players with a mix of pride and worry. They were playing the rival team this Friday, and the town was counting on them for a victory. One of the star players, Alex Miller, was particularly focused. Alex had been dreaming about this game, but the news of the missing hikers troubled him. He had a younger sister, Lily, who loved to hike. He hoped nothing had happened to them. "Hey, did you hear about those missing hikers?" his friend Sam asked as they took a break. "People say they were near the old cabin in the woods." "Yeah, I heard," Alex replied, glancing towards the forest in the distance. "I hope they're safe." As the practice continued, a feeling of unease settled among the players. They talked about the missing hikers during their breaks, wondering what could have happened. That afternoon, the local newspaper, the Bellbrook Gazette, reported a bit more on the story. The hikers were brothers, Tom and Jerry, who had been camping in the forest. They loved exploring the trails, but had not returned after a hike. Their worried parents were trying hard to stay hopeful. Meanwhile, Alex decided he couldn't just sit around. He called a few friends, and they formed a small group to help search for the missing hikers. They gathered flashlights, snacks, and a map of the forest. They told Coach Thompson about their plan, and he supported their decision, knowing the students cared deeply about their community. "I should come with you," Coach said. "You'll need an adult." They were relieved to have him join, as they knew he could help keep everyone safe. As the sun began to set, the group made their way into the Bellbrook Forest. The leaves crunched beneath their feet, and shadows danced around them. The air grew chilly, and they brought out their flashlights. The deeper they ventured, the harder it became to keep track of time and direction. "Let's head towards the old cabin," Coach Thompson suggested, remembering the stories he had heard about it. The group nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and fear at the idea of exploring the old building. A half hour later, they arrived at the cabin. It looked abandoned, with weeds growing around it and the windows dusty. Still, it felt strangely inviting. They knocked on the door, only to find it slightly ajar. "What if they're inside?" Sam whispered, glancing sideways at Alex. They all felt nervous but pushed the door open. It creaked loudly, echoing through the night. Inside, they found old furniture covered in dust. They searched room by room until they reached a small bedroom. And then, suddenly, they heard a noise. It sounded like a faint cry. Did you hear that? Alex asked, heart racing. The group nodded nervously. Let's check it out, Coach said, trying to sound brave. They carefully moved towards the sound. It led them to a small trapdoor hidden beneath the rug. With trembling hands, Alex pulled it open. What they saw below took their breath away. It was a dark space, but there, lying on the floor, were Tom and Jerry, the missing hikers. They looked exhausted but alive. Help us, Tom cried, relieved to see them. The group hurriedly pulled them out and called for help. In the quiet of the forest, they shared the terrifying story of how they had fallen and couldn't get out. Soon, the sound of sirens filled the air, and the Bellbrook community came together. They cheered as the boys were finally brought to safety. Alex felt proud, not just for helping, but for being part of a community that cared. That Friday, the Bellbrook Eagles played their game. In the stands, everyone wore their blue and gold with pride, but the best part was knowing that the hikers were home safe. The game brought the town together, and the bonds created that week would last for years to come.